I'm Greg Soule, and welcome to the Fantasy Restaurant. This is my warm-up exercise where I ask everyone's favorite drink, appetizer, main, side, and dessert. Usually it's a little wacky. These are usually a patron-only exclusive that you can find at patreon.com/whymipod. For as little as $1 a month, you can support the podcast and get access to these. Enjoy this double feature with Quinn Dunki of Blondihacks and Michael Cthulhu. Hello and welcome to Quinn Dunki's Fantasy Restaurant. This one, like all of them, was a lot of fun, and this Canadian only came after me once, which is nice. So enjoy this perfectly cooked steak with Quinn Dunki. Oh, you are in the Fantasy Restaurant, Quinn, and this can consist of food that you've had at any point in your life from anywhere. You made it yourself, somebody else made it, you had it at a restaurant. This could be a fantasy, like something you saw in Lord of the Rings. I don't care, it doesn't matter. Something from your favorite Apple II video game that you have always wanted to eat. So first off, I'm going to ask you, what do you want to drink? Are you like a tea person? Are you just water? Are you sparkling water? Do you like bubbles in there? What are we going for?
It's got to be whiskey. Neat.
Whiskey neat.
Yeah, that's
Easy
my poison.
Peasy. Well, like I'd like to tell people, the Fantasy Restaurant, there's no hangovers either, right? So
perfect. My kind of place.
Whiskey neat. All right. So I am actually a big appetizer person. I don't know about yourself, but
sure.
Sky's the limit. What are you going to go for?
Oh, that's a good question. Appetizers. What is it? That's tough. I guess I'm really into tapas, so I think my fantasy restaurant's going to have a nice selection of tapas for apps.
I have legitimately never had tapas. From what I understand, it's like tiny food from Spain, right?
Yeah, basically. So typically like crispy rice cracker kind of thing as a base, and then on top there's going to be like maybe some salmon or other fish or cucumber salad, little things like that. So just kind of light and airy, different kinds of things like that. And
the idea is like a variety, right? So you get lots of little stuff, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like the dim sum of Spain, I guess. Yeah, it's sharing plates. I mean, it's eaten as an entree typically, but makes for good apps as well.
Excellent. Well, I'm on board. Is there a particular restaurant you really like having tapas from?
I think the best place, there was a place locally here. So I live in Los Angeles, and there's a place down in Venice Beach that we used to go back when, eating at a restaurant wasn't an extreme sport. And so that was probably my favorite for that.
All right. I like to call that the long ago, the before time.
Yes.
If anybody can still remember what that was like.
Yeah.
Although I'm in Texas, so it's kind of like we never stopped eating at restaurants. So yeah. It's a little different for us.
Okay. I hope you're not. Are you affected by all of the crazy weather and the loss of power and everything?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was entirely uncertain whether I was going to have power for this call or not, but one way or the other, I was going to figure it out. During the week, I had rigged up a bunch of like USB 5-volt battery booster packs, and then I had some, I have some boost and butt converters over here, so I rigged up some boost converters. So I had my cable modem and my router going, and then my laptop's got plenty of power, and man, it was going to happen one or the other.
I appreciate the resourcefulness. That's good.
Get it done. No excuses. I'm talking to Quinn. This is going to happen. We're gonna be talking about some food here. All right, so we've got a nice tapas selection from Venice Beach. Now we're gonna move on to. Are you doing a salad? You want some bread in there? What are we thinking about?
I could do like a bruschetta. Sure, why not?
Nice. I'm always on the fence about bread. I'm always terrified that it's gonna fill me up, and I will still power through everything else.
Yeah.
So I never quite know what to do there.
Yeah, I always enjoy it and then regret it because then it doesn't prevent me from eating as much as I was going to eat. So then I've just eaten too much, but it doesn't stop me.
Yeah, it doesn't stop me either. I'm no quitter. I don't know about you.
Exactly.
All right. So let's move on to your main course. What your favorite main course of all time from any place? What's it going to be?
It's going to be either, got a couple of options here. It's either going to be like a really good steak, nothing fancy, just one really, really good steak. I'm from Alberta, and we take our steak seriously there, as you do in Texas, I'm sure, from what I've heard. And so that would be probably first choice. Second choice might be there's a restaurant in West Hollywood called Bossa Nova that does a really amazing beef stroganoff. So that might be a good second choice.
All right. So do you tend to make your own steaks? I mean, obviously you can't go to restaurants right now. I was just curious.
Yeah, I do. I make my own steaks. So I've gone through a bunch of different methods. My current favorite is America's Test Kitchen has a method for doing it in the oven, which is fantastic. So you do it on a cast iron skillet, and you heat the skillet by itself in the oven for 20 minutes under the 500-degree broiler. And so that thing's sitting in there under the broiler for 20 minutes. So that thing comes out of there just blazing hot. And then you drop the steak on it for like a minute, and then you flip it for like a minute, and then you put it back in the oven for 2 minutes, and it's done. And it's perfect every time. It's really amazing.
The skillet gives you that like really good sear on the outside, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's foolproof. Like it really is. It's perfect every time. It does have a tendency to smoke up the kitchen a little bit, but it's worth it. It's perfect every time, because I went through different barbecue methods and different ways of doing it, but it was always difficult to get it the same each time, like getting the consistency there. And this oven method is just awesome.
So what's the prep? Is it just like salt and pepper on the steak, or nothing?
Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, you could do whatever you like to do, but I just do like an olive oil and I do a little bit of a rub with something Canadian favorite called High's seasoning salt. It's kind of the like Lowry's of Canada, I guess. It's a steakhouse that has their own in-house seasoning salt, and you can buy it in the stores. I used to have to actually import it, or I would smuggle it down from Canada in my luggage.
Do you have anything to declare?
But you can actually buy it on...
No.
Yeah, no, definitely not black market steak seasoning. But you can buy it on Amazon now, so that's made my life a lot easier.
Oh, fantastic. So you Canadians are known for eating some odd foods, right? Or having, like, don't you guys have like ketchup flavored chips or something strange like that?
We're known for the weird potato chip flavors, yeah. So ketchup, dill pickle, both of which are awesome. I also really like all dressed, which is where they literally just put all the flavor, salt, all the powders on the chips.
Baller.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. So that's a fave. I think those are kind of the three main weird ones. There's a few other edge cases, but those are the big ones. And some of those flavors you can get here now, but they dumb them down, I guess, because they're afraid Americans aren't going to like them. So like Whole Foods sells dill pickle chips now, but they're so weak. Like it's just embarrassing. Like the dill pickle ones are like it's really strong. Like it's supposed to melt your face off.
I wasn't prepared to be called out by a Canadian at this early in the podcast, but I guess we're at that point. But you know what? I think you're right. They do water things down for the masses here in a lot of senses. We're not just talking about food here. They do it in a lot of places. So I'm definitely a spicy person. Or maybe flavors. I like a lot of like. I think it's like as I age, I'm losing my sense of smell. I think because I am eating things that I never anticipated eating. And I enjoy vegetables and things like that, which is bizarre in and of itself. But such is life. We have this misconception, or maybe it's actually true, that you guys put mayonnaise on everything. Is that true?
The Europeans do that. Canada, not so much. I think we're pretty normal that way. We put ketchup on a lot of things that maybe other people don't. One of the things we're known for is ketchup on mac and cheese, for example. And so specifically Kraft macaroni and cheese, which we call Kraft dinner. But down here, I think is because that's just how they branded it in Canada. So it was, and they've since rebranded it to be hipper. So now it's called KD. Like KFC used to be Kentucky Fried Chicken. Now so Kraft dinner is now KD in Canada. But I think down here it's still called Kraft macaroni and cheese, right? Gotcha. The stuff in the box. Anyway, so you make that and you put ketchup on it, and it's like the ultimate white trash food.
My hot take is that Velveeta is better than Kraft. I like I like all the preservatives, I think, in there. And I think it could be like negative 10 degrees and it'll still be viscous and liquidy in that packet. I'm not sure how that works, but it is just so creamy and delicious.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. my top quarantine cooking tip: instead of milk when you make the mac and cheese, and you mix it with the powder, instead of milk, use sour cream.
Sour cream.
It'll blow your
I'm
mind.
writing that down.
Yeah, a little bit of butter maybe if it's too thick, but yeah, otherwise just sour cream, and oh my gosh, so good.
All right. Well, it sounds like we've got a toss-up between a good steak or beef stroganoff, which, to be honest, I've only ever eaten that out of like the packets where it's got the instant noodles and you put me. So I'm not sure what it's really supposed to taste like. Is it sort of the same thing, but with like a nice, rich, thick gravy in there?
Yeah, it's very umami kind of thing. It's British, I guess, originally, but yeah, it's very kind of hearty and comforting sort of thing, I guess.
That's such a loaded thing for me. When people say comfort food, I think that's that's very subjective. I think your comfort may be different than mine. Yeah. I never quite know what that means. I think it usually means lots of fat in there, right? Like butters. Or...
Yeah, I think so. I think it means food that you eat when you're sad or something. So it's like bad for you is usually what it means.
Excellent. All right, well, let's talk about your sides. We went on this diatribe about mac and cheese. Is that something you're interested in, or are you're gonna pivot, going somewhere
else? Sides, let's see. I gotta have a vegetable in there somewhere. So something like green beans maybe is nice, or let's see, what else would I do with that? Yeah, I might do like a fried fingerling potato, something like that, but I'm gonna want something green in there. So if not green beans and maybe broccoli, something like that, something steamed, just to kind of keep it from getting too heavy. Mushrooms in there. I gotta have mushrooms on the steak too.
Let me add mushrooms up here. I'm writing down your order, by the way.
Good.
There's no way I could keep all this.
I tip good if you're Grubhubbing, just saying.
So you said green beans, you want them steamed. Are you adding like some garlic in there or something?
Yeah, some garlic would be good. I would do like a light saute on those with like some almond slivers, a little bit of pepper in there maybe.
Now you're speaking my language. It's never enough garlic for me. I swear, it's like I'm not allowed to season foods anymore in the house, because whenever I get it to where I can taste it, it's it's overload for everybody else. So I break them. All right. So that's pretty decent. I like that you said you had to throw a vegetable in there, whereas this is your fantasy, and even in your fantasy, you're forcing yourself to eat vegetables. So good on you, I guess.
Yeah, it's not just like so I feel better about myself. It's also because I genuinely do like something to balance the steak. It's if it's too much, too heavy, it's nice to have something just to kind of offset it a little bit. Makes the steak better if you've got something go along with it that's a little lighter, I think.
For sure. I am too. Like when I'm eating something like that's kind of like big and hearty, I like to a little of that and then a little of something else, a little of that, a little something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of palate cleanser, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, time for dessert. Don't let me down. Bring it all home.
Yeah, see, that one's easy for me. I have this one weird dessert thing that is straight out of the 80s, and it's like it's so dated and cliche that restaurants don't even serve it anymore. Like they would be too embarrassed to have it on their menus. Chocolate mousse. It's simple, and it used to be really popular. It used to be like, now it's creme brulee, right? Like that's like the default go-to dessert that every hip restaurant has. And I like that too. But in the 80s, it was chocolate mousse that everybody had on the menu. And I absolutely love it. There's just something about it that pushes my buttons. And I recently learned that, in fact, that you can buy chocolate mousse mix. So I ordered a bunch of that on Amazon. So I have a lifetime supply of it in my pantry right now. But yeah, that's my go-to. Every once in a while, you still see it on a menu. And I always get very excited when that happens.
I love chocolate mousse. The only problem for me is that it feels like it goes too fast. Like it's generally so light, that it's just, it's there and then it's gone. And I feel disappointed. But I guess that's the point, right? So that it's not super heavy and stodgy.
Yeah, I don't have much of a sweet tooth, so I don't like really heavy desserts. Like you see a lot of like chocolate lava cake or whatever on dessert menus, and I cannot, like 2 spoonfuls of that and I'm done. Like I can't do it. So I like a light dessert.
Awesome. Well, you say, it's so funny that you said creme brulee. That I feel embarrassed now because that was going to be one of my picks, but it's like you never, like where I'm from down here, you never see that anywhere. So that's like
Okay,
a
yeah.
specialty-ish sort of thing here. But I guess in
Interesting.
LA, everybody's got their pinkies up when they're eating, right? So it's
Yeah,
a
maybe
little
it's
bit different.
maybe it's a West Coast thing. That's interesting. I don't
Like a
know.
regional thing. All
Yeah.
right. Well, let me read your menu back. See if you're happy with this.
Okay.
We're gonna
All right.
have whiskey neat, right, to drink.
Yes.
You're not gonna have any water apparently. You're just
No. Water's for quitters.
you're not an amateur. You know what you're doing
Yeah.
here. Starter's gonna be tapas, right? So really good mix of various things. Then we're gonna go for a bruschetta to meal it off. I guess we're gonna do. It was a toss-up, so we're gonna go both. You're gonna do a good steak. Are you?
Yeah.
Is it, somebody else is gonna cook it with your patented method, and we're gonna put onions and
Yes.
mushrooms on top of that. Is that what you said, or just mushrooms?
Yeah, onions is actually onions. Yeah, let's do
rock
it.
and roll. Are you steak sauce kind of person, or is it?
Depends if the restaurant has a good one, or if they're known for it. Yeah, I'll try. I'll have a little bit of.
Usually, I think if it's a good steak, it can stand on its own, right? So.
Yeah, it should. Yeah.
For sure. All right. And then we're going to go for the West Hollywood beef stroganoff.
Yes.
All right. And then we're going green beans. You're going to steam them. Then we're going to sear them with some garlic and almond slivers. I've never had almond slivers on vegetables, I don't think, but I've had them in a salad, so it sounds good to me. I think I'm on board.
It's good with green beans. It's a good
And
combination.
then we're wrapping it all up with a chocolate mousse. How big of a chocolate mousse?
Yeah. Good size. Like a cup, something like that.
Cereal bowl? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, salad bowl, whatever's handy. I'm
Awesome.
not fussy.
Well, that actually sounds like a terrific meal, and thank you so much for joining me in the restaurant today.
It's about 3 days worth of food, I think.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I have fun doing that, actually. So that's more for me than anything else. I just have a blast. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the strangest fantasy restaurant I've had, and I'm assuming it's going to be the strangest I'm likely to ever to have. Michael is a man who knows what he wants, and he's determined to get it, for sure. I hope you fill up on this delicious meal, if you can call it that. All right. Well, are you ready? Are you ready to go to the fantasy restaurant this early in the morning?
Yeah, I'll be extra grumpy if they don't have very simple carbohydrates.
All right. So the full premise of the fantasy restaurant is it can be any meal you've ever eaten, any fantasy meal. It doesn't even have to exist. It can be something you remember from your childhood. So no holds barred here. So starting out, I'm just going to ask you, what do you want to drink?
What were the choices? Oh, what do I want to
what do you
drink?
wanna drink?
Usually,
Water?
when I'm out, the tea in American restaurants has been nothing but disappointing. But normally, when I'm out, I treat myself to I mean, not to denigrate. I'm sure there's fancy tea places in America, but not on this small island and not in the few places I've been. But usually, when I'm out, I treat myself to having a Coke because I try not to. When I was a young man, I would guzzle Cokes all the time, just without thinking. But now it's generally just a special treat, like when you're out at a restaurant, because it's very hard to mess up a Coke. It has a formula and all that stuff.
So
I mean, they do.
are we talking about
do
full
something.
sugar Coke? Or are you going Diet Coke? What are you talking about?
Oh, full sugar
Oh,
Coke.
all the way.
Yeah. No, I don't. The Diet Coke, I never got used to it. It tastes weird to me. So full sugar Coke is I'm treating myself because I'm out at a restaurant type drink.
Have you ever had a Mexican Coke?
Yes, they're pretty good, but my palate is hugely unsophisticated. Like I don't. Like I said, I'm not super into food, so the Mexican Coke tastes a bit better to me, but it doesn't taste twice the price better to me. You know what I'm saying? Like so,
Yeah, I don't have a very delicate palate, so I honestly can't really taste the difference. My kids, obviously, they know the difference and they can appreciate its value, but that's somewhat lost them. So a Coke, man, a Coke is a good option. So we've got a
Yeah.
Coke. Now we're going to talk about starters or appetizers, whatever you want to call it. Are you an appetizer guy?
Nope. Like usually it's just like I'm here to get fries, whatever you guys do, because fries are the thing that's hard to make at home. It's messy. It's a long process. So I often tell my wife, we can go to whatever fancy restaurant you want as long as they have fries, right? And then it's not like I'm not a connoisseur. Once the fries are out, I can judge the fries, but it's generally always fries. Maybe if I'm feeling fancy cheese fries, or if I'm feeling extremely fancy truffle fries,
Oh, yeah.
you know? But yeah, and then like, so there's one guy on the island here who can make really good fries. And usually I like going to wherever he's working because he changes seasonally where he's, and I should know his name to give him a shout out, but I keep getting told it, but I forget. But he does the skinny fries, and then he like puts like sage on them. So it's like, oh, these are fancy gourmet fries. And then you get all the way down to the bottom. I do remember the name of the place that has the worst fries on the island. I won't shit on them on your podcast, but like, oh yeah, is this a swearing podcast?
Absolutely. This is everything.
And but yeah, they clearly just have fries somewhere and they microwaved them in the box, and it's awful.
Trash.
They're like soggy, limp, lame. And it's like the worst part is if I wanted soggy, limp fries, I could do that at home. Like I didn't. So it's like add an insult to injury that I paid for these things. I paid someone to do a job more garbage than the job I would do myself.
I would the same way. If I'm going to go to a restaurant, I want to eat something that I can't make at home. So like I don't want to go somewhere and eat a sandwich. You know what I mean? It's like I can do that every day of the week. That's not a big deal.
Oh, I might. The only time I think I would eat a sandwich or something like that is if like I'm traveling and it's like I need real food. I can't just eat garbage for this, 24-hour plane trip all the way to Australia. So, but and I might be lowered to buying, things like fishing around. I'm a vegetarian as well, so that makes getting the sandwiches because I find like when you're getting sandwiches in like something like a corner store and you're looking at them, the vegetarian one they'll often try to make fancy, and that's no good to me. They're like, oh, here's the vegetarian option. It's a bunch of soggy vegetables in between two pieces of bread and called it something fancy. It's like, oh my God, it's just like, you can't, there's no such thing as buying a peanut butter sandwich in a store. That's not a thing,
I don't think I've ever
but
seen
like,
that.
Yeah, and so, and it's just weird to ask someone to make you that, So you wind up eating some weird vegetable sandwich that you don't like because you can feel your stomach complaining that you've been given it nothing but fries on the course of this, long trip you're on or whatever.
That's awesome. All right, so vegetarian. So are you gonna go for maybe like a bread? Like it could be like a roll. It could be a papadum. I don't know, something a little bit different. You can spice it up.
Usually not. No, I just get the fries. I mean, yeah, they whatchamacallit. If we're in certain places, I'll get a thing of queso on the side to dip my fries in. And it's like, oh, this is me branching out and having exotic fries. I'm having queso, That's but that's about. I mean, I'm not a food guy. I apologize.
No. I love it. Fries, skinny fries. When it comes to fries, I like two kinds. I like the big. Well, you know what? I like a lot of them. I lied about that. I like big, thick steak fries sometimes. Sometimes I like crinkle cut. Sometimes those really just hit the spot. And sometimes I like the paper thin. Are you a McDonald's guy? Do you like just the good old McDonald's French fry?
I haven't had a McDonald's fry in years. The island here is very particular, so that they're very like, no franchised things ever. And so there's a secret Starbucks that has to pretend it's not a Starbucks to be here. And there's a Dairy Queen, but that's about it for chain places. And here's the thing, living on this fancy foodie island that I'm trapped on, I think it has ruined me a little bit because McDonald's fries used to be the epitome, like the top level fries you could get. But now living on this island, I find my my brain has been like, oh, I think I prefer the skinny ones that the dude handed me. Because this guy, whose name I can't remember, his fries are like the gourmet version of the McDonald's fries. And I'm like, oh, wow, I've been ruined. It's like, you know, and there's all sorts of trash I could eat back in the day. Like, I could, like, wolf down, like, Twinkies or whatever. But my wife feeding me real food, forcing me to eat real food on this island. It's like I can no longer down 12 Twinkies without feeling ill the way I used to, you know?
Yeah. I found as I age too, my body is less and less tolerant to trash. It's like I just can't handle it.
So there's probably both of those things happening simultaneously. It's like someone's feeding me real food as my body ages and turns to dust.
I know.
You know?
I mean, how are we going to live forever if we're not eating all those preservatives and stuff?
That's what I say. Is like she's training the kids to like all of this like natural stuff. Like my smallest kid just eats endless fruit. Like if there's like blueberries lying around, he'll just eat them all. Whereas like to me, who's been raised on trash, a blueberry tastes bitter or sour or whatever. It's like, this isn't sweet. This is like cringy. But he'll eat them, and that's great. Except for when the apocalypse comes and my poor kids roaming the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Like they'll turn their nose up at the battered tin of Franken beans they dig up, you know? Like they won't be able to, I don't know what all the gourmet foodie people will do in the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Like if they're not able to eat trash the way normal people are.
So do you guys is Halloween big on the island?
Huge, or rather it normally is.
Right.
Like I should rephrase that. It's huge compared to Ireland, where I came from. So, in Ireland, my childhood, Halloween was always very small and like not that interesting. But we'd all been raised on watching, you know, films that had an awesome American Halloween in the background, like E.T. And I think now there's a whole generation of people in Ireland who are emulating the American Halloween. But when I moved here 10 years ago, there's one street in Vineyard Haven, which is one of the 3 towns on the island, and called William Street. And they deck it all out with Halloween. And it looks like some American film where there's like it looks like the type of exaggerated Halloween that I'm used to from films. And I'm like, oh my God, this is great. So I always go a bit nuts on Halloween. Like I think I put more prep work into the Halloween costumes and the kids' Halloween costumes. Like I certainly do way more work for that than I ever do for Christmas. Like, you know, it's like my wife can do all the baking and the Christmas stuff. I'm going to spend a week making a accurate He-Man costume that will upset everyone.
The plastic hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What so do your kids get to splurge on Halloween? Do they get to eat all that candy?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's the one night of you can't be telling people not to eat candy on Halloween night. So, and I join in, and they know that I am also have a trash tooth. So they, you know, the usual thing, they try to hide their stuff from me, and they never hide it properly. You know,
I call it the dad tax. Anytime I need to eat something of theirs, so let me tax that really quick. I'll take a bite off the top.
Yeah. The only problem with that, though, is taxes are supposed to be, like, reasonable and predictable, and the way I do it is neither. So, like, feels unfair telling them it's a tax. So it's just like, hide your candy good, kids, or I'll eat it, I tell them.
Oh, that's hilarious. All right, so I know, okay. At some point, we're going to get to the dessert, so it sounds like you're not going for a cheese plate, which I love. It always sort of burns me up when I hear people not want to eat sweets for dessert. All right, so what are you getting for? Are you doing on your main?
Well,
what's your main look like?
I thought I already said I was eating fries.
That's your appetizer, man. What's your main?
Well, I literally just eat fries when I go out. Like you guys can get whatever you want. I'm just going to get fries. And people will sometimes try to feed me other things and say, "Oh no, you don't understand." I remember I had a very awkward dinner with there was a Discovery Channel guy. And he was trying to butter me up because I was being cantankerous about some of the things to do with the TV show. And so he ordered me fries, but then I ate my fries, and then he was like, "What else do you want?" And I said, "Nothing." And then so I had to awkwardly watch. I just had to watch this masticator masticating, using his hard mouth parts to ingest setting this future poo on its first step along its hideous path in silence. And you could tell he found it awkward too, just having me sitting there watching him eat on a dinner that was supposed to be him buttering me up.
Just ominously staring. My wife, I've noticed in the past, and I eventually asked her about it, if I'm not eating, she won't eat. She like refuses to just sit there and eat with somebody staring at her. So I have no such aversion. If I'm hungry and you want to stare at me, that's fine. I'm gonna eat, you know.
Yeah, I think I'm like that too, but my wife is very into like food. This is terrible, but she's very into food as like a social thing.
Oh yeah.
And and so she also finds the not eating, the staring at her while not eating thing. We sorted it out. I get the fries whenever whatever comes out, you know. Like it's fine, it works out. But like she gets upset by, like, she bought me these ration bars that were these hideous ration bars for Christmas because she knows I don't like eating, you know? So she bought me these ration bars as a joke present. And then she got upset when I ate them. Like, there was some day I was in a rush and I was like, oh man, I was in a rush. I ate one of the ration bars earlier, so I probably won't eat dinner. Also, I have to go now. And I think that upset her. So I'm not allowed to eat the joke present she got me because it upsets her.
Ridiculous. All right, so I'm assuming you're not going to have any other side dishes or anything else. Are we skipping straight to dessert? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, and even for dessert, man, I normally don't like get it in the restaurant because it'll be like, you know, like if the kids want to get like some ice creamy thing, right? I'll obviously go, okay, go on then. I'll get some sort of thing, and then I'll like something that's similar to what the kids are getting or whatever. But if I'm with my wife, we normally don't get. Actually, that's not true. Sometimes she'll want a fancy dessert. If my kids or wife get a fancy dessert, but for me, because I like trash, as said before, I'm happy with just stopping at the Cumberland Farms on the way home and getting something hideous for cheap there, you know. And it's like oh, we'll get a Twinkie on the way home or whatever. And I Twinkies are garbage, obviously. Yeah. But I kind of get an extra in the way that food is not just about food. There's a whole like social web of things around it. The fact that my wife gets upset when I eat a Twinkie, she finds the whole thing revolting. That adds a certain frisson of enjoyment. That makes the Twinkie taste better. Is the fact that lots of people in my life think these things are. I mean, and they're correct. They're little tubes of toxic poison. But like the fact that they're gross is, increases my enjoyment of eating them.
So, I mean, this is your fantasy restaurant. You can have anything. I mean, you could be sitting there eating a whole box of Twinkies if you want. If
it's a fantasy restaurant, yes, I think just for the upset factor of getting Twinkies in a restaurant, I would ask them, did they have any Twinkies? And then get some Twinkies, and then that would be. They might even imagine if the poor bastards. Imagine if they tried to make some sort of like gourmet arrangement of Twinkies on a plate, like it's like 6 Twinkies in a circle with a squirt of cream and a thing or something.
Or if they try and make their own homemade version of a Twinkie as opposed to just giving.
Oh no! I hadn't even thought of that. That would be nightmarish.
It would be awful
if they tried to make. Yeah, no, my poor wife. She tried to make gourmet mac and cheese for me and the kids one time, and. The kids, it's me. I have no taste for it. So the gourmet mac and cheese, I was like, why are the mac and cheese all sour? And it's because she'd used, fancy ass cheese, and she found a recipe for gourmet mac and cheese. And my kids also turned their nose up at it. So I feel really sorry for her. We want the trash. Get out the Kraft mac and cheese. And I don't know. And I often annoy her by saying that, like. The trash I like, the kids naturally also like, generally. Like, if you give kids trash, they'll eat it. And then, and not only eat it, but enjoy it. So my, I like to refer to my palate, just pure jokingly, I don't believe any of this, as like pure and unsullied. Like, there's no cultural expectations bolted onto my palate. My palate is as pure as a 5-year-old child's, totally unsullied by any like sort of cultural expectations. So all those other tastes that you guys like, the super spicy stuff, or like weird stuff. If because you have to train, because it would be impossible for a 5-year-old child to enjoy that. That shows that it's entirely cultural, like a mimetic idea that the food that's hurting you is good, you know? And so that's my defense of my trash palate, is that it's like more natural. My trash palate is actually more natural than the people who like having their organic avocado toast or whatever. Although I've learned to make peace with avocados lately. If you get past the fact that they're slimy, they are pretty fatty, which is good.
There's a lot to unpack in that sentence, in that phrase.
Yes.
Yeah. I get what you mean about like the palate of a child, and you have to be trained into that. So, you know what I was reading is that spicy foods, if they're spicy enough, they kick in the same reaction in your body as if you like burn your skin. So it'll release like chemicals that may, like release dopamine and things like that to kind of soothe and calm you. So you're kind of juicing yourself up with that spicy stuff.
And that would, if you were trying to explain that to a 5-year-old child, you were forcing to eat a ghost pepper. Yeah, that'd be weird, man.
Well, even then, I'm tricking my body into thinking I'm harming it. It doesn't seem like exactly a healthy act to be explaining to a kid. That does make sense. Avocados, I've got this weird palate where there's some foods like bell peppers and tomatoes. That stuff tastes bitter to me. It doesn't matter what I do. If you cook it enough, it kind of comes out of it. But it's bitter. And like cilantro. You ever eat cilantro?
Oh,
I'm one of those people that tastes like soap. It's awful.
I often torture my wife as well by telling her that, like, I thought I liked food okay, but it wasn't until I was with you that I've learned that I actually hate most foods. Thank you for that. And yeah, cilantro is the worst, man. I didn't even know what cilantro was, and then my wife's trying to get me to eat fancy stuff, and every so often, it took me a while to figure out. I was like, why does this food particularly suck? You know? And then, yeah.
Are you also thinking to yourself, how do I word it? Or did you just say, this particularly sucks? Is that the way?
No, I like to be honest with people. I don't like to lie too much. That's one of the things I like about my wife, is my wife often, as well, finds in her interactions that, people find her too blunt. But that's fine for me, because I also like clear communication.
Yeah.
I don't like, imagine two people who were doing something they didn't like because they both thought the other person enjoyed it. Things like that never happen with me and my wife. You know, like if there's something and neither of us like it, we'll just tell each other. Or even if one of us likes this, the other person, like, I can't get my wife to watch movies, for instance. She just doesn't. She loves books. She loves podcasts. She cannot sit for a movie, and she'll tell everybody she can't sit for a movie and that she doesn't like movies. That's a weird thing to me, because I love movies. Telling people that you just blanket don't like movies is like telling me you blanket don't like books. It makes no sense, you know? And she's comfortable telling people that in the same way I'm comfortable telling people I don't like all food. You know?
I hear you. You know, you're talking about movies. Yeah. I was just having this conversation. So I just got my kids like 3 days ago. What was it? Saturday? Yeah, whatever. Anyway, a couple of days ago, I got him to watch the Shawshank Redemption for the first time. And it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And my oldest, my 15-year-old, which obviously he knows everything at this point, right? He is the master of all creation. And he said, you know what? It actually was pretty good. It surprised me. I guess
that's great.
He was assuming my taste in movies was terrible. But I also really love audiobooks. Like, I'm a big audiobook fan. And I was thinking about, why do I love that movie so much? It's because it kind of combines all of those loves together, because you've got Morgan Freeman narrating that movie, who does such an amazing job. And so I think it's marrying those. And then I was thinking another movie I really like is Stand By Me. I don't know if you remember that one or not.
I don't think I've ever seen the full length of Stand By Me, because that was one of the ones that used to be on the TV a lot when I was a kid. Or not even a kid, but like, grown up or whatever. And so it's like, oh, it's already started, and so I've missed the setup. Or, oh, I get to see a bit in the middle. I don't think I've ever managed to see the full length of it, which is, TV's fault.
Well, I was thinking, Another thing that I like about that so much is there's a narrator. You got Richard Dreyfuss narrating the movie. So I was thinking maybe that's all of my favorite movies just have narrators along with it. So maybe your wife's kind of like me. Maybe she needs a little bit of narration along with her movies.
Yeah, I'll get something with lots of narration. Like, what's a good movie that has narration? Dune, the original '84 Dune. I hear that's a great movie. I'll get her to watch that one.
I remember the book was amazing. I don't remember the movie being that amazing.
I liked it because it was one of those things I just functionally liked. I was like, oh, this is the thing is I enjoyed the original Dune movie, the whatever year it was, 80 something. It's kind of like, oh, look at this funny, trashy sci-fi movie because I like bad movies as well. And but apparently because it has such a rabid fan base, that's why it got dumped on so hard. If it had just been by itself, this random trashy movie, you would have gone, oh, that was kind of weird and different and interesting. But because it had the movie, I think people savaged it because it did such a bad job of translating the book.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, that's with a lot of like video game movies and stuff like that. They never quite translate over as well, things like that.
Yeah,
right.
Well, at least Dune had a story. A lot of times with video games, the problem is the selling point was the fact that you're playing it. It's like, and that's it's hard to replicate when you're watching a movie unless it's something that has with 100% plot. Okay, are we doing with the exercise? Do you want to move on to your?
Yeah. Well, let me read your menu back to you or your order. So we're gonna start with a Coke, a big Coke. Are you lots of ice? No ice? Where are we at on that?
I don't really like the ice. It is true, but obviously I want it cold. So cold but no ice.
Ice cold, no ice, and then for pretty much every meal we're going skinny fries with sage. And possibly some queso. We'll put some queso on the side for you. And then for dessert, we're going to have a dozen Twinkies all lined up in front of you. And we're going to get as many people who find Twinkies as disgusting to be there so that you can extra enjoy their discomfort while you eat said Twinkies. Sound fair?
Yes.
Excellent.
And I don't even, it'll be great because I don't even know could I eat a dozen Twinkies nowadays in my frail old age, So I'll just be eating them, getting sweatier. I find if I have too much trash these days, I tend to get a sheen. It's like the sugar sweats.
Yeah, I think as everybody's disgust mounts, I think you'll just be emboldened, and you'll just. I think you could.
Yeah. No, I would like if I ate them to the point where I got sick, because that would just increase the disenjoyment of everyone around.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining me in the restaurant.